Good evening, everyone. If you can take your seats, we're about to get the meeting started. Okay, today is Tuesday, April 14th, and this is the joint Flagstaff City Council Coconino County work session agenda, and I would like to call this meeting to order and give notice given to the members of the City Council and to the Coconino County, to the general public, that at this work session, the City Council may vote to go into executive session, which will not be open to the public, for discussion in consultation with the city's attorneys for legal advice on any item listed on the following agenda. Can I get roll call, please?
Chairwoman Begay. Here. Vice Chairwoman Horstman.
Present.
Supervisor Fowler. Supervisor Ontiveros.
Present.
Supervisor Vasquez.
Present.
Mayor Daggett. Vice Mayor Sweet.
Present.
Councilmember Aslan.
Present.
Councilmember Garcia.
Present.
Councilmember House.
Here.
Councilmember Matthews. Councilmember Spence.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Garcia, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Please stand if you're able.
Councilmember Aslan, will you do our mission statement?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. Vice Mayor, the mission of the City of Flagstaff is to enhance and protect the quality of life for all.
And Councilmember House, will you please do our land acknowledgement?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The Flagstaff City Council humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by Native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home.
Thank you. We are now down to open call to the public. Open call to the public enables the public to address the council about an item that is not on the prepared agenda. Comments relating to items that are on the agenda will be taken at the time of the item is discussed. You will need to fill out a card in the back, and you will have 3 minutes. And because you are commenting on an item not on the agenda, we can't ask any questions or answer any questions. Do we have any public comment? It doesn't look like we do. Next up, we are on item 5, Upper Rio and Forest Restoration Projects Update.
thank you. That helps too.
That's the map. You sent the presentation.
Yeah. It's not going to show up, is it? Yeah, that should do it. Just waiting on a spinny wheel now. All right. Thank you, Neil. Appreciate that. So we're going to start off just doing a real quick overcap of some of the funding that, the projects that are going on. So for fiscal year 2025, the Flood Control District is investing $5.864 million into forest restoration projects across the county. $2.8 million for Bill Williams, and in the Upper Rio itself, we're doing a little over $2 million for Hawk Little Wing and $1 million for the Durford project. And we'll talk a little bit more about where those projects are and who the partners are. And then I wanted to also show for FY26 what we are going to be bringing to the board for the budget session for that fiscal year will be another $2.8 million for Bill Williams Mountain and $2.4 million for the LaRue project, some of the steep/difficult slopes that we're looking at on the Coconino National Forest. But very importantly, at the bottom of this slide is currently all projects are held up by the administration, waiting on signatures for agreements that we need to get in place, or that, like the Nature Conservancy or National Forest Foundation, all the agreements are being held waiting for those signatures. And just so everyone knows, we will be presenting those tomorrow with the Arizona Attorney General's office as they come for the town hall. So we'll be there presenting the projects that are being held up and affecting us right now. So to go through each project, and you've got a map in front of you that would help hopefully guide you through some of this. And we did these maps in a kind of a stoplight. Green means that they are completed. Yellow means that they are either in progress or at least they are under contract. And red means they are waiting to be awarded. So it kind of gives you an idea, but it gives you that 30,000-foot look of the Upper Rio de Flag watershed and how much work is being done over the next several years in this area. So to start off, you'll see Wing East that is above. Let me see here, I've got the map here I can look at here on this. So Wing East is just above the blue there, the Fort Valley Experimental Forest. It's in yellow. James Perkins Timber Harvesting is about 58% complete of that project right now, and actively working every day. They are now on to if you go down to 151, the Harts Prairie Road, they're just below Camp Colton right now, starting to work on that side of the road. So a lot of work's getting done, but I will let you know that if you drive out there, and for your constituents that drive out there, some of that area right there is called a savanna restoration. So they're going back and they're looking at what the historic stumps are found there from what used to be there, and it looks very differently. They're cutting a lot of trees out of that area, bringing back that meadow restoration.
I'll do your little pointer.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
So
specifically up in here, lots of meadow restoration.
Yep. So it will look very differently, and people will start using the word clear cutting and other things based on a lot of stuff we're reading with executive orders. This is not, this is a typical type of cutting mechanism that's used in the Southwest, in Arizona specifically, to open it back up to natural, historic type of forest, which is very open and a lot of meadow. So I just want to prepare you if you start getting calls or concerns about that. Across the road is Wing West. That has been awarded to Restoration Forest Products, and they should be moving in this week to start working on that. It's a little over 5,000 acres. It's a very big chunk of land, and that work should be starting this week. So we're excited to see that. The next is the Durfer project, very top in the red. That is a project between Coconino County, SRP has put funding, we've put about $1 million, SRP's put $650,000 into this project. They're going after some Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation project because there's a lot of aspen regeneration work that's going on in there. And that is being managed by the National Forest Foundation. That is one of the projects waiting for a signature. Now, we've been told that signature should be coming this week, but we've been told that a lot lately, so we will wait and see. And once they get the signature on that and it's executed, the RFP, the request for proposals, is ready to go, and it will be going out immediately after that. And they hope to be starting work, if not getting through a lot of the work this summer. And we're going to be focusing on the south third of that project first, because it would have the most impact on the Upper Rio, because it's outside. You'll see this blue line on your map. That is the Upper Rio de Flag watershed. So this is actually outside of it. Excuse me. The controlled burn smoke is getting me a little bit this morning, so today. But it would be one that could have a major impact on the mountain, and so we are interested in that project, even though it's outside of the actual watershed boundary. And then right below that is the Hawk Spa. On your map, it's red because that one also is being held up by signatures and some changes that had to be made. They found some Mexican spotted owls, and we had to do some changing. So it's not quite yet into the yellow, but we're really close on that one as well. So we're making those changes. It'll probably be reduced down to 2,043 acres from about 2,300 acres, so that we can get to work faster. Because if we kept the MSO timing restrictions in the project, it would kind of delay it maybe another 2 to 3 months as we tried to rewrite the contract. So we decided to drop those units. We can bring those units back into the LaRue project much quicker. So that was one thing we've looked at doing.
So when you're saying you remove, that's the spotted owl areas that you're just going to remove from discussion so
Yep.
that hopefully they can move forward with the signatures. The other question is, when you say waiting for signature, so waiting for the signature from the Forest Service or
Yes.
from others?
The Durfer project is waiting for the Forest Service. The Hawk Little Wing, we're dropping the Little Wing portion. So we're getting that paperwork together, then we'll be waiting for the Forest Service. So we're not quite waiting for the Forest Service yet. We still have to redo the writing of it, which should be done this week, and then they will be waiting for the Forest Service.
And then just one follow-up, signature Forest Service, Region 3, or is it going to be the Coconino?
Region 3. Yeah, all of it goes through grants and agreements in the region. And then now it sounds like they not just go to the region, they go to the Washington office and potentially to the USDA office for review. So, yeah.
And then one last question, and that is then how long can we wait for these signatures before it holds up the ability to do the forest restoration work this summer?
Once the RFP is, the contract is ready, the RFP is expected, TNC, the Nature Conservancy, is wanting that RFP to go out by April 21st. So we're really pushing hard that this all gets signed very quickly. And we're hoping, the local forest is supporting that. They're pushing it their way up the stream. So we want to have the RFP out by April 21st. And that would mean, if that happens, we are on schedule to get this, because the way we're doing this one, we're breaking it up into multiple units to be bid on by contractors so that we have multiple contractors out there at the same time with very short windows to get the work done. We want it done this year. So that's really, we're trying to kind of a new system to try to speed this up in these real critical areas.
Supervisor Fowler has a question.
I have to hold it, okay. I'm wondering if it might help for this council and the Board of Supervisors to write a joint letter in support and try to speed up the process. Would that help?
If we get to that point, we may do that. What we're hearing now that we have agreement, or all the agreements supposedly have gone through the DOE's review and they have been approved. Now, what's the problem or the holdup is we lost a lot of grants and agreements personnel. And so now they've got a backlog. And so that's where we may have to push these to the top of the pile to get signed quicker. So when we find those things out, then we come back and say, let's write a letter. Any other questions before we move? Okay. The next project would be the LaRue project, the red project in between there by the yellow that Neil's pointing out. That is the steep/difficult slope that we are focusing on in the next year or so. We have been talking with the U.S. Forest Service, and they have had some loggers go out and look at this, especially the Ponze tethered logging companies that are working in other parts of the county right now. They went out and looked and said they took 1,100 acres out of what we thought was gonna have to be helicopter, $20,000 per acre, and moved it into tethered logging at $6,500 or so. We don't know exactly the price, but somewhere in that. So we're saving millions of dollars by looking at this a different way. So we're excited about that. And the current NEPA covers that logging operation. So we can now move into that very quickly. So we're thinking by the end of the summer, early fall, we should be getting an RFP out. Probably won't be able to start logging until next spring, but that's like 1.5 years ahead of schedule for helicopters. So, and the cost savings is really key there for us. So we're excited about that. Then we have the blue area, the Fort Valley Experiment Forest. Those two areas right on either side of Highway 180. Currently we're available to do 940 acres of hand thinning up to 9 inches under the current NEPA. So we're evaluating that. Neil and I have been out with the National Forest Foundation and the Forest Service and the lead scientist for the Fort Valley Experiment Forest. Surprisingly, I mean, something that's been different from the past is the Fort Valley Experimental Forest is actually excited about getting some of this work done and get this thinning done. And so we really feel like we can move forward pretty quickly. The problem we have right now is finding funding for that. We need to have some funding available to do this hand thinning. And it doesn't sound like if you're hand thinning to 9 inches that you're gonna do a whole lot of work or you're gonna make a big difference. But if you can picture driving down and you see those dog hair thickets of a lot of 2 and 3 inch diameter pine, that's exactly where this is at. And so you will actually make a big difference and reduce the fire risk in that by doing the hand thinning. Back to LaRue. So there are 2 areas in LaRue that have been kind of taken out that would have to have new NEPA done to do helicopter logging. They are very steep slopes. So there are 2 areas about 250 acres that would have to be helicopter logged. There's really no way around it. So we are going and evaluating those acres and seeing what type of treatment do they need? Is it a very heavy treatment? Is it more hand thinning? Is there dead and down that we need to deal with? So we're doing some more on the ground reevaluation of those 2 areas. And then we're gonna look at how does that play into, if that catches on fire, does that allow fire to get into the wilderness area? You know, so we're trying to really do some cost analysis and benefit analysis to see when and where do we need to treat and to what extent do we need to treat. So we're going through that, and then we'll get the NEPA started and determine what we need to do. Again, because we're looking at $20,000 an acre or more. The last section I want to talk about, and I don't know if it's on here, Lowell. We don't have it down because it's not part of the Forest Service maps, But the Lowell, Section 17, that is the project that the county was able to get congressionally directed spending from Senator Kelly and Sinema to the tune of about $816,000, $817,000. And then we have $100,000 coming from City of Flagstaff through the fire department. We have $50,000 from Lowell Observatory, and we believe somewhere around $50,000 from SRP. They just came in as a partner in this. So we're really excited about that because our aim here is to remove all the biomass with the logging so that there's no biomass. This is so, I mean, we're less than about a mile from City Hall here to that project, and, you know, getting that as clean as possible. If we do have to leave any biomass, it would be in the upper northwest corner, kind of the furthest away, and that has treatment all around it if we need to. But that's just based on funding, we'll decide that. So those are the projects that we've got. And then this map doesn't show it because we got some of the shape files for a lot of the FWPP work that's been done. But the map in your hands does. You'll see a lot of green in the Dry Lake Hills, Mount Eldon area. That's a lot of the work. We didn't have all the shape files, but we had a bunch of them to show how much work has been done in that area as well. So, I mean, I hope the big picture when you look at it is there's a lot getting done in the Upper Rio really fast. And that's exciting, that's great, because it will help protect our communities and our watershed there. Any questions before we move on from that?
Any questions, comments? Councilmember House?
Thank you for the presentation so far, and forgive me if this is a silly question as I'm trying to understand all of this, but how much are any of these projects complicated by, I'm seeing some of the areas that have multiple colors kind of overlapping them. So how much are the projects that are planned for these areas complicated by the presence of state land or private land in the midst of those?
Yeah, not really. You know, it's we just work around them. We're actually pleased to see, like in the Durford project, it wraps around some private land. And, you know, the Forest Service sometimes has a tendency to, let's just cut the line off and not make it, well, now we're going in there and gonna work right next to some private land, so there'll be a lot of communication that has to happen and education on private landowners to let them know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and kind of give them the good feel that we're out there to protect their properties as well with these projects. Well, the last thing I wanted to really show, just so you can have a visual of what we're doing and why some of these acres are so critical, is the dead and down component that we're finding out there, especially in these aspen stands and the steep slope. So on the left-hand side, that's part of the Durford project. So right there, you're looking at probably 50 to 60 tons per acre of dead and down wood. Now that's not across the whole project, but there are several acres that have that kind of loading on there. And the photo on the right is a picture of some of the LaRue project, that steep slope. You're probably closer to 90 tons per acre of the dead and down on that. Typically in a dry mixed conifer, you might be at 20 tons per acre. So, you know, obviously we're way overloaded. We need to remove a lot of that. And basically, we're removing that so that, and not if, when a fire goes through there, because we expect fire to go through there even if it's prescribed fire, when it goes through there, it doesn't cook the soils and make them hydrophobic. We can, you know, and it doesn't get out of control. So it just brings us back to a more natural state. And so that sometimes is what adds to this cost, but it's very important that we get that dead and down out of there. Okay, shifting a little bit now, talking about the community wildfire protection plans. I'll let Neil talk about the Greater Flagstaff Area CWPP that he's going to be working on. The countywide rural fire districts and tribal communities CWPP is underway. We have our first core team, so we've developed a core team with the contractor and the county and the Greater Flagstaff Forest Partnership who's managing this project and this grant. We're going to be meeting on April 25th with the core team, which is a lot of the fire district chiefs and some tribal members, and we're going to get together and we're going to lay out kind of what are the desires, what are the needs from these communities, and then we can start dealing with the plan. But the one thing I've been excited about is that SWCA, who we're contracting with, you know, we've always been talking about this 18-month kind of process. They're trying to cut that down to 12 months. They understand the urgency, they understand the need to get this done and so we can get work done. So they're gonna really push that we get these meetings done and go to all these communities and work with them, get the maps, get all the modeling, and get it done in 12 months. So that's gonna be really aggressive, but I like aggressive, and let's get it going and get it done. And then Neil, I'm gonna let you talk about the Greater Flagstaff.
Yep, and so, just to avoid any confusion, there's 2 community wildfire protection plans. We've got Greater Flagstaff Forest Partnership taking point on what Jay was just talking about, the county-wide effort. And then historically, we've had a Ponderosa Fire Advisory Council-based community wildfire protection plan written in 2005, updated in 2012 and 2018. And that basically includes Summit Fire District, Flagstaff Fire Department, Highlands Fire District, Pinewood, Ponderosa, and Mormon Lake. So that kind of network of partners. And so we'll be updating that as well. We're looking at putting some new cool tools together to do parcel level assessments. Our procurement staff here at the city have our narrative and should be flying our request for statement of qualifications very soon, and then we'll get the clock started as well. Some good news around these community wildfire protection plans is that a big chunk of federal funding was pushed through bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yep.
And that is what's funding a lot of this planning work that we're able to do. The good news in the Fix Our Forest Act that recently moved over from the House to the Senate includes continuing that program. And so once we get these CWPPs done, we'll be able to hopefully have another program that's pushing money down from the U.S. Department of Agriculture to the Arizona Department of Forestry and Fire Management that we can now apply to go implement these community wildfire protection plans. So there was some uncertainty on the longevity of that program from the feds to the state to us. But if the current narrative of Fix Our Forest Act stays the way it is, we'll see those programs continue.
And then, as Neil's gonna talk more about some of the real in-depth work they're gonna do, the county also submitted a new grant through the Community Wildfire Defense Grant Program to fund a 3-year position that would go out into that greater Flagstaff CWPP area, because it had to be an area that had been updated and up to snuff, in a sense, to be able to even apply. So we've applied for a 3-year position to go out and do a lot of education and outreach to the communities within that footprint, so that we can start getting them prepped and ready for projects, and to show them what they need to do to get ready for wildfire seasons and how to protect their homes. And so then Neil's gonna build on that even more by really showing people where they're at risk and why they're at risk and how they're at risk. But we have put that in, and we'll see if we get selected for that project probably in the next 6 months or so.
So it's a great partnership like Jay is talking about. Jay's going out and getting a potentially new position if that grant's funded for the CWPP that this other group's working on, and we've secured some funding for some modeling for the whole county. So things are syncing really well. This is an example of some structure vulnerability modeling that we've been basically just testing out a little bit. This was a model that we were given through the Moore Foundation from a scientist at Colorado State University. And this model is basically determining where do we have structure fire vulnerability. So it's not looking at the forest or, state lands, it's looking inside the built environment. And so we're working over the next year to get some additional funding to fine tune this, to get down to that parcel level. And it won't be necessarily a model of the parcel, but we'll have parcel level real data fed into this. And what we can do with this is start to look at some of these spots. Here's I-40 and coming right through Flagstaff. There's a lot of red right in the middle of town. We can go through, and once we have this model dialed in, we can assume if we make investments in a patch of red, so high-risk parcels on that map, we reduce that wildfire risk to those parcels, we rerun the model and see how it impacts the rest of the neighborhood. This will really help us avoid what we think of as random acts of mitigation, and really help us focus the limited funds that we have in the areas that have the highest risk and the biggest return on investment. Oh, and then this is just an image of the software package we've been testing with some partners. It's called WUI, W-U-U-I-I, from a company whose parent company is named Madronas. And basically, I know some of you have had this already. If you haven't, call us and we'll come out, we'll do the assessment. This is a new tool where you get a report basically from us after we do the assessment. We have the ability to check on you automatically within a time period, like 6 months, where you're gonna get an email that says, hey, have you looked into the things we talked about that you need to do? So it's starting to use some really cool features. As we're driving to the house, after we enter this address, it automatically starts to populate those zones around the house. So that 0 to 5 feet, 5 to 30 feet, 30 feet and out. When we do the assessment and we're looking at things like your vents, vegetation, the materials of your fence, it starts to pop up all these little details on the map of the observations we're taking. And so we're really taking our fire risk assessments to a whole new level. And this information isn't going public, but at some point, if there is an effort where we need to start sharing this stuff either with insurance companies or with some sort of publicly accessible data set, we'll already be ahead of the curve and have these formats and these databases in place.
Neil? Madam Chair?
Go ahead,
Vice
thank
Mayor?
you.
Neil, a question for you about that program. I'm curious if there's if it skews differently according to season. How does the assessment work when there's no foliage on, non-evergreen?
If there's no leaves, we'll be making some assumptions. But, I think we can tell a lot of that based on just the branches. Is that branch reaching over your house? Is it within that 0 to 5 zone? So we don't necessarily need leaves on there to tell us exactly where the vegetation is. But at the same time, that helps us, when we do know when there's leaves, we can kind of tell the homeowner, if you're gonna have to do a lot of raking. Because it's really important that the pine needles and the leaves.
Aspect of this analysis that you're not using Google Earth or overhead images
at this point, we're not using
generate-
any sort of automated technology other than literally when we enter the address and create that account, it starts to auto-populate a couple things on the map through, I don't even know if it's an AI thing or if it's just literally, it can tell the footprint of your home and it starts to build that 0 to 5 zone around your house. One of the really important parts of this that we cannot replace with any sort of satellite or drone technology is that relationship we're building with the community. Because we want to take these actions that we recommend, or we want to take the recommendations into action. And having that relationship with the homeowner, having that conversation is a big part of that. So there are communities where they're using drones or they're just driving down streets and trying to collect this data. And maybe we'll reach a point where we have to do that because we're getting overwhelmed with the one-on-one time. But right now, we really see great value in making sure that we're in the driveway with a homeowner, with a renter, with somebody, getting them to understand and what we're asking them to do and building that relationship.
I did have the assessment done, and it was very valuable, and I would recommend everyone does it. It has a checklist. I know exactly what I need to focus on, and thank you for doing the one-on-one. It's great.
Oh, yes, thank you. So just reach out to the Flagstaff Fire Department if you're interested.
Supervisor Fowler?
Yes, we've been concerned about across the country here and across the country on homeowners insurance with this disasters. Does this help to improve homeowners insurance? And also the Arizona map, I'm just wondering how it's being used, and these are great challenges that we have. And then with the, we're trying to keep residents safe and then stay home as well and not have them move away.
Yes, this directly relates to our strategy around dealing with these insurance challenges. Insurance companies are making decisions on renewals or non-renewals based on zip codes in very large spots on maps. Their models may be able to zoom into a smaller area, but that's not real data, that's modeled data. And so what we're trying to do is start building from the bottom up really robust data sets. Because think of it this way, if we go back to this and we see a neighborhood is red, how do we turn that green? We can't do that with a model. We need to literally go parcel by parcel to start changing this map to showing that, this neighborhood was red, now it's green because of all the work the homeowners have done. So we track the work, we're able to give them these assessments and keep track of it digitally. And then next thing you know, we've got a whole street that's turning green. Then we've got a whole neighborhood turning green. We've really got to build that real data set all the way up from the parcel level to eventually be able to show a model that, you know, is completely changing a zip code from at risk to a mitigated risk. So it's a challenge. It's not going to happen overnight, but I do feel like we have the tools to make these changes.
Supervisor Ontiveros?
Thank you. And the question I was wondering is, have you had any conversation with insurance companies? And are you hopeful that if you start turning red to green, that that's going to lend itself to renewals and non-cancellations?
You know, we talk to a lot of different folks, from insurance companies to brokers to national organizations like American Property Casualty Insurance. And we don't have guarantees in any way. You know, the insurance markets are changing by global impacts. There could be a tsunami somewhere that affects reinsurance, that affects the comfort level of risk in our zip code. So we have no guarantees, but it seems like what we're finding out is a framework known as Wildfire Prepared Home and Wildfire Prepared Neighborhood from the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety is being very well regarded by the insurance industry as an acceptable framework for what homeowners and communities should be doing. So our plan is that that's the same framework that we're assessing properties on right now. We're looking at updating our city codes and integrating those guidelines into our existing codes, that the more we can start building with this stuff in mind, the more the insurance companies will understand that we're mitigating that risk using a framework and a science that they agree with. How that is all going to translate into adjusting their models, we're still kind of, I don't want to say waiting and seeing, but we just haven't made enough of a change at this point at that parcel level up to be able to understand how the insurance companies are responding to that shift. But I think, like I said, the cards are there for us to be able to set all this stuff up for success.
Yeah, and I would add, you know, part of that grant that we are doing to try to get somebody kind of in place. We've got Chief Miller here from Highlands Fire District. I mean, those are the ones, these smaller fire districts are struggling to get out to everybody's homes, and they're getting people calling them with non-renewal notices and, you know, what do I do? And this education part is kind of the basement level of what you've got to start educating people to understand that, you know, we may not be there to do all the work for you, so you need to rake your needles. You need to clear out that 5 feet. You need to put the screens up on your gutter, you know, in your attic spaces and all those things, and just educate people so that we can start moving that needle and shifting those colors.
Councilmember Garcia?
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Neil, I was wondering if we could go back to the map real quick. I had a quick question about, I'm looking at the far west line that looks like what the plan is for creating that defensible space, you know, up to Belmont, Malapai, and the Durfur extension. I was wondering, I'm from a fire perspective, is that enough of a defensible space? Are we going to be good with that amount, or do we keep pushing past that area? When is a good defensible space, is I guess what I'm asking.
Yeah, that's looking at like almost 6 miles sometimes away from the highway, and close to 9-10 miles from the mountain itself. So, I mean, from my forestry perspective, yeah, we're building that donut around the community and around the mountain itself now that's adequate to be able to, in those worst case 50-mile-per-hour winds, 70-mile-per-hour winds, that if we reduce that from becoming a crown fire, then we've done what we've wanted to do. But I'll let Neil, a little bit more fire experience than I have.
Oh man, on a red flag day, I never want to say anything is enough. But that's also the boundary between the Coconino and the Kaibab. If we had the Kaibab treatments, there'd be more on there. So that's not where the work ends. That's the beauty of the Forest Restoration Initiative, that we've got 2.5 million acres NEPA ready. So those acres west of there are in a plan. They may not be on this map because they're kind of Kaibab projects, but all of that stuff is slated to be treated at some point through Forefry.
Thank you for that clarification, Neil. Good work.
Any other questions or comments? Supervisor Vasquez?
Yeah, I just wanted to, first off, thank you for the presentation, and the maps are really cool to have seen the progress of when we were talking about, they were just assigned to see areas that have been cleared. That's really important, so, congratulations to the team and everybody that's been involved in that. I am concerned about the projects that are on standstill. In particular, I know in the past we were talking about Bill Williams Mountain and the helicopter contract. At what point do we get where we've lost the season for Bill Williams Mountain with that helicopter if we don't get the green light to move forward?
Yeah, so we are days, weeks, once we get the signature, what we'll do is start reaching out to helicopter contractors to see if they have capacity to start this year. If not, then our contingency plan is that we will do treatments along the base of the mountain that haven't been done yet to try to protect that mountain even more, while we wait to get to next year, next July, to start the projects on the steep slope. So we've got plans, and we're gonna do work on the mountain. It's just gonna be right at the base of the mountain, starting to kind of go up the steep slope, but you can still use ground-based logging. But man, I hope we get to where we can do some helicopter, but we're right on the cusp right now of whether there'll be anybody available.
Chair Begay?
Thank you. I just want to thank the staff here for doing the presentation. I know there's a lot of work, a lot of things and funding's an issue, but if we all work together, on projects, it shouldn't be that heavy of a lift. So I just want to thank everyone that has been really involved, the city, the county, other partners within Flagstaff and surrounding areas. I just want to say thank you so much. And I think we still have a long ways to go on this, but beginning, with certain things that can help us along the way. Certainly homeowner insurance is an issue right now, and how do we work at it to ensure that, we get points for it so that our insurances aren't that high. So I think that's one of the reasons why this is being put together. And there's a lot of projects that were done, and I'm just happy, that to see that happen. And there's always partners with dollars, fundings, and grants, and everything. It just seems that it's coming out really smoothly for us. So again, thank you, everyone that's in this room, plus others that have had a hand in this whole endeavor as far as getting to where we're at right now. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Thank you. That was a great presentation.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, we are moving down to item 6, City of Flagstaff Capital Projects Update.
The good news is the engineers always have the PowerPoints loaded. Well, good afternoon, Vice Mayor, Chair Begay, members of the Board of Supervisors and Council. My name is Joanne Keene, and I'm a Deputy City Manager for the City of Flagstaff. I get the honor today to kick off this presentation to give an update on the City of Flagstaff capital improvement projects. Just as some history, we've been giving this presentation around town, just trying to get the word out about all of the projects that are kind of on the horizon now, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road, so we can start to prepare the community for the pain. I think we're starting to feel it right now. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Paul Mood, our city engineer. We also have Trevor Henry, who's our capital improvements engineer. And online, we have Christine Cameron, who's a senior capital projects manager, capital improvement project manager for the city. Where they'll walk through all of the, not all of the projects that the city's working on, but a lot of the high-profile projects. So Paul, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Joanne. Vice Mayor Sweet, Chairman Begay, council members and commissioners. As Joanne said, we're going to give a brief overview of some of our larger, more notable projects that are happening either in construction right now, in design, that could be coming up for construction fairly quickly, or in design, starting construction within the next year and a half. First project is a Foots Asphalt Repair Project. The city has a little over 8 miles of asphalt foots trails, and they're starting to see a lot of large cracks and are in need of repair. So we have a project planned. Currently, we're at about 90% design. We're reviewing the plans. We hope to bring this back to council in May and get construction started over the summer so we can get some of those foots trails redone that are around the schools. So this is a really good project. And again, engineering is managing the project, but we do work closely with all of our other departments, pros. They maintain the foots, so we work with them closely. Some of the trails out on Highway 180, we'll have to work with ADOT to get the proper permits. So that is getting ready to start construction hopefully this summer. And if you have any questions, it'd probably be better to go through the, if you have it on this slide. So any questions on this particular project? All right, hearing none, we're moving on. John Wesley Powell Boulevard, this is a very large project, part of our Proposition 419 tax. This is going to extend John Wesley Powell Boulevard from where it ends at Pine Canyon right now and bring it up through Little America and through Canyon Del Rio and connect to 4th Street. We have 3 separate agreements with the landowners and developers. The areas you see in yellow in the upper right, Canyon Del Rio is going to construct that upper right portion. The city is responsible for the portion in red. We have separate agreements for repayment agreements and development agreements with Little America and the Gibson property. And then the State Trust Land 405 in the purple, they're going to be building the area in yellow on the lower left. Again, very large project, good partnership. Approximate cost is $51 million. City is responsible for 40% of that, and then the developers are responsible for 60% of that. We're currently in design. The city's main portion, we have the Rio de Flag crossing, so we're concentrating our efforts on that right now. A lot of permitting that will need to go on with that. And we're hoping to complete design this year and then start construction in 2026. And it'll probably take us a good 18 months or to 2 years to complete that road. And that whole connection should be done within 3 years. We also are working on a John Wesley Powell specific area plan. And we had a meeting last Monday at the Aquaplex. And the areas to the lower right in green and yellow, which is city and county properties, they were invited to the Aquaplex to come hear about the specific area plan. But a lot of conversation about the roadway and the Rio de Flag we had with those property owners, so they're excited. There's a small yellow piece in the upper right called the Brighton Project. That is a subdivision that's currently in the planning stages, and that will provide that area secondary access. So if that low flow water crossing ever does, make it impassable like it did a couple years ago on Harold Ranch Road, those property owners will have a second way to get out. All right, any questions on this project? Yes.
In that lower right-hand corner where it's green and yellow,
Yes.
you're saying that that entire area is going to have an area plan?
Well, the John Wesley Powell corridor does. I don't know if it extends that far, does it? It does. Okay, yes. Our planning director, Michelle McNulty.
Okay, and so actually that leads to my next question. I think you said that it was city and county property?
Correct.
So how do you do, I'm just wondering how that works.
Let's invite Michelle McNulty out to answer that question.
Hi, I'm Michelle McNulty. I'm planning director for the city of Flagstaff. So it's interesting. It really won't. It's a regional plan. It really won't affect the county residents, but we're bringing. So it only applied to city properties, but we are bringing in the county residents because it will affect their property. So just so that they have a say and are aware of what's being communicated. Yeah. Thanks.
So is, on this map, is the orange, is that the county island? Because I can't tell which of those properties are city and which of those are county.
The properties in green are the county properties.
Properties in green? Okay, thank you for
Yeah.
that clarification.
Okay, you're welcome. And then in the kind of lower left where it says COF, City of Flagstaff, 27 acres, that's a future housing development, but we're also working with our council to reserve an area for a future fire station, future wildland fire station, our police substation, and then our fire admin facilities as well. So there'll be added fire protection in that area. All right, next project that you've probably seen under construction if you drive Milton is the Beulah and University Realignment Project. This is part of a public-private partnership that was done with a private developer, the ADOT and the city. So we realigned Beulah Boulevard, did the roundabout that's currently open and operable. This project will also do a underpass, pedestrian and bike underpass under Milton Drive. Very exciting, very large project. And fortunately, the developer is paying for that as part of that agreement. We expect this project to open late summer, early fall. Overall project cost was roughly $24 million. The developer has already paid $1.7 million. They had an upfront payment they have to do, and they need to make a final payment of about $3 million after the project's over. And then they have 5 years from the end of the project to make that payment to the city. Got a couple pictures. You can see the pedestrian tunnel under construction. This is quite a few months ago, so it's a lot further along than that picture on the left shows. But the picture on the right shows what was there before, November of 2022, and then August of 2024. You can see all the work that's been done. A lot of coordination with the businesses in the area, NAU, where we make sure that we have their graduation covered, so when they know they're getting a lot of people in for like their move-in weekend or graduation, we try to work with them as well. And then ADOT has been a good partner as well. Any questions? All right. Now I'm going to turn it over to Trevor.
Thank you, Paul. Good afternoon, Vice Mayor, council members, Chair, Vice Chair, and supervisors. Thank you for this opportunity to be before you to give this presentation. We've done this several times in the last month or so, maybe 2 months, in the City Council. We did this before them about 3 weeks ago. So they'll see some of the slides here, but we just like to give a presentation, explain what we're doing, talk about the good projects that we're doing for the City of Flagstaff. And then I supervise a group of about 8 project managers, and they all take care of these projects. I'm fortunate to just give you highlights and kind of give you the top view of it, but the project managers have the in-depth knowledge, and they're available. Some of them might be, if there's some really deep questions, we can go from there. But this project is Butler 4th Street improvements. So imagine I-17 at Butler Avenue, and then go east about 2 miles, maybe 1.5 miles, so towards Sinawa Middle School. So this project will take the 2 lanes that are currently there and upgrade them to 4 lanes, 2 lanes in each direction. So a couple years ago, the city moved forward with an idea and a concept called the Big Shift. And that Big Shift talked about complete streets. So what complete streets are avenues, venues, thoroughfares of pedestrians and bicyclists for safety. And so this project will incorporate that. So we will have 2 lanes in each direction. We will have a median, roughly about 15 feet wide. And on the edges, we will have parkways. And then we will have an 11-foot concrete surface. And that 11 feet will include a 5-foot bikeway and a 6-foot path for pedestrians. So that this project will also expand that. Also included will be utilities, underground water, sewer, some storm drain infrastructure. But basically, that's this project. We will also have roundabouts at Butler and Fourth, and then at Harold Ranch and Butler. So that's kind of where we have those plans currently. We are working with a lot of the developers along this stretch. So some of these developers provide funding for projects along their avenues or their frontage. We're working with Little America right now, and then they have talks, and we've been meeting with them to potentially move the roundabout at Harold Ranch Road to a place right in front of their business. We have to work with ADOT on this because that influences how the traffic gets off of I-17 and then moves into Butler Avenue. So we have to work with them before we can actually say that's a good idea to move that roundabout. But for right now, we're planning on having a roundabout at Harold Ranch Road until we get the approval from ADOT. We will also have an underpass. This underpass will be at Butler and Fourth, the intersection. It'll be a joint use, so we'll have a drainage structure as well as a pedestrian walkway for an underpass. So that'll go from basically the west side of the intersection to the southeast side, and continuing on with the Rio de Flag walkability or the footpath there. So that's basically the project scope. Our budget right now is $32.2 million, and this is all coming from Proposition 419. That was roadway, bicycle, pedestrian, and safety. It was a proposition back in 2018 that was voted on. And move forward, that actually is what we call a new tax. So that was part of the transportation tax that was going to end in 2020, and then it renewed because that Proposition 419 was passed. Part of our construction, part of the budget is construction, which is $28 million. And of that $28 million, we have a RAISE grant, which is now called the Build Grant, for $19 million. And the city's contribution or match to that is $10 million. And again, that'll come from Proposition 419 funds. We are also looking into applying for an AZ SMART Fund grant, and that will provide $3.8 million. And again, whatever grant funding we have, we'll leverage, and then we'll bring down the city's contribution or our match. We have roughly design and land acquisition at about $4 million. So that's just real briefly covering our budget. We're planning to do the rest of the design this year. We are currently at 30% plans. And then now we're speaking with our federal constituents, the Build Grant, just making sure we're in alignment. And I know there's been a lot of talk about federal funding grants currently with the change in the administration, but we had received notice in early January that we are still on bill for this grant to receive the money. So that's currently where we stand, and that's what staff's understanding is. We will continue the design through this year, work through the grant responsibilities and conditions, and then hopefully jump into some construction next year and then the following year. So this will be a 2-year season project. And on the pictures,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Councilmember Garcia, do you have a question on this?
Yes, thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Just a quick question. You were mentioning speaking with partners about potentially moving the roundabout. So I think I have 2 questions for that one. At what point do we just move forward with the current plan as far as timing is concerned if we're not able to hear back from ADOT? And then the other question is, what other alterations would we have to do for that roundabout to change spots and still make sense for our plan that we had prior?
Yeah, council member, thank you for the question. So we have currently scoped work for a traffic analysis with our current designer. And they have looked at moving the roundabout, and we received that report middle of last week, and we have turned that over to the state of Arizona, and they are looking over that report, and they will get back to us in a couple weeks. Once we know and determine if we can move the roundabout, we will. If not, it'll stay where it is currently. But we will continue to talk with Little America. We'll talk with them, go over what other ideas or what other advantages we could possibly add to the project to help them with their entry into their business there. If the roundabout does move, then we already have that scoped with our designer to make a little bit of a pause and then do those changes that would necessitate moving that roundabout in that location. There shouldn't be too much of a issue. Again, it's just working through this specifics on where improvements will go, driveways will line up. We do understand that Harold Ranch Road itself in the future will go away, so we will have to look at some of that, what improvements need to happen there at the intersection that is proposed on the picture. So this is what we propose for the intersection of Harold Ranch Road, but we will have to look at that a little further and just see what other ideas we need to incorporate. There is a private development here, Woodshire, that we will have to accommodate them for their secondary access to Butler Avenue.
Thank you for that.
Yep, you're welcome.
Supervisor Horstman?
Yes, thank you. And I know there's on a Daily Sun did a long article about this and about the federal grants and about the Secretary of Transportation asking for a review and possibly to revoke those that had to do with bike lanes, bike transportation. Have you had any follow-up with Department of Transportation, and does that look like that's going to have to be taken out of the grant proposal, or can you move forward with it?
Thank you for the question. We just had our council members and some staff go to Washington, D.C., and they talked with the Transportation Department about that, and it looks favorable for us to keep that grant.
That's great news. Thank you. Good work, team.
Yep.
Councilmember Haslund?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Okay, two questions for you, Trevor. One mostly just to bring everybody up to speed. I'll let you answer it. The underpass, that's not something that's going to be dug below grade. We're actually going to fill in the grade level in that depression area, right, in order to achieve that feature?
Council member, yes, that is correct. We are not going to excavate below what's currently there. We will build up roughly 12 feet to accommodate the slope coming in from the north to make sure that intersection works like it should be for that type of a road system, that classification. And the 12 feet will accommodate the underground pedestrian and drainage structure.
Great, thank you, Trevor. I think that's a brilliant way to take advantage of an asset that's just waiting to be utilized. My second question, I don't think that this information was readily available for us to discuss as recently as when you last shared an update with us. I don't know about our supervisors, but if you're on council, you're now very well aware that there's a Mormon temple being planned in Flagstaff. And for all we can tell, that location is going to be at 4th and Butler. So I thought it was relevant to maybe mention here during this conversation. Is there any chatter or conversation with them, with that development in terms of getting the amenities in that area up to speed, bringing them on board? Any consideration already being taken around traffic and all that stuff? I know a lot of the email traffic we're getting is concerned about dark skies preservation, but there are a ton of other considerations to take into account for something of that size going in this area, which we're now doing a lot of planning for. So I just wanted to start the conversation about that.
Yeah, Councilmember, thank you for the question. So as far as this public capital project goes, we have not officially heard about the development coming in. We've read the same articles, we understand what the proposal is. However, when a private development comes into town, they have to go through a process. They go through our planning department. They work through that process to bring their development to meet standards. There are traffic impact analyses that are required, so traffic will be assessed and accommodated based on the development. When this development gets to a certain point, then they will contact the capital public project, and then we'll just make sure everything works together so that we can accommodate what they're going to do, and then we still meet the project for the community. So as of right now, we haven't heard. I don't know if any concepts, any ideas, site plans have been submitted to the city, but that's, as far as this project goes, that's what I understand.
Please.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Question I had is, I know that the schema down below on the map shows Butler, but for Herald Ranch Road and 4th Street, will they also be built like that, or will they just be 2 or 4 lane roads? Like especially Herald Ranch Road is the one that I'm curious about.
Yeah, thanks for the question. On Harold Ranch Road, south of Butler, it is not actually an official road. And then when we do the John Wesley Powell Boulevard project, we're gonna connect Harold Ranch Road. The southern part of Harold Ranch Road will remain. And once that connection is made, it's the intent of Little America to abandon Harold Ranch Road between Butler and John Wesley Powell Boulevard. That's why that roundabout really can shift a little bit, because whenever they develop, they'll need to put a road through, but it doesn't need to be right at Harold Ranch Road.
Thank you for the clarification.
All right, thank you. Real quick, the pictures on the right side kind of show the cross-section on the bottom picture. And it just shows the 4 lanes, the median, the parkways, and the shared bike lanes and pedestrian. All right, I will continue on. Next project is the Butler Avenue Complete Streets. So this project is spawned off of what the city went through a couple years ago. It's the separated bike lanes. So if you drive Butler Avenue between Milton to Sawmill, if you remember, we had some curb bumpers off to the side, which kind of separated the vehicles from the bicyclists. So again, that was a pilot program, a pilot project, and we've learned a lot since then. And so what we're going to do now with this project is separate the bike lanes, and what we're going to do is elevate them. So very similar to the picture you just saw for the Butler 4th. We're going to have a parkway, and then we'll have a shared 11-foot path for pedestrians and bicyclists. So that'll be on either side of Butler Avenue from Milton down to Sawmill Road. We will have protected intersections. Protected intersections are areas where pedestrians can cross as well as bicyclists. And there will be some curb bump outs, there will be some striping, which will provide protection for the bicyclists and pedestrians from vehicles. Those protected intersections will be at Beaver, San Francisco, and Sawmill. We will also have enhanced crossings with this project. So right there at O'Leary and Butler, currently there is no crossing, but we do plan to put some type of a beacon flashing device to where the pedestrians, bicyclists, when they want to cross, they can hit the button, get to the middle, possibly hit another button, and then get all the way across, and vice versa going south. There is one currently at Humphreys, and that is a solar-powered push button, get to the middle, push button flashing, and we would like to upgrade that and provide a hardwire system to where it'll function very similar to what we will do at O'Leary Street. We are also going to be coordinating with the Lone Tree Overpass project. So right here is where the 2 will cross each other. So we'll make sure we're going to coordinate with them, that we don't do any extra work with one project and then the other one comes through and tears it out. So we'll do some coordination there. Our budget is $12 million, and for this project, we are completely funded through federal grants. We have $9.6 million from the SS4A, which is the Safe Streets for All grant. And again, we went through an agreement. We've got that endorsed by the council, sent it back, and we're just working through the conditions and requirements for obtaining those funds. We also have an AZ Smart Fund grant in the amount of $2.4 million. And again, we're just working through the conditions, the provisions for that grant. So this project is completely funded, leveraged by federal grants. Our schedule there is we will continue. We have a 15% feasibility study currently, and we do plan to move into a complete design. I'd say in maybe a month or so, we should release an RSOQ, which is a request for statements of qualification for a firm or a design firm to help us with our design and move it forward. So that'll be the rest of this year, maybe a little bit into next year, and then next summer, possibly start into some construction. And then this project will be 2 seasons. And what you see on the right, again, pictures of what protected intersections might look like. Again, this is kind of an overview of the project. But with that, I'll take any questions. All right, thank you, and we'll keep moving. So this is the Cedar Lockett 4th Roundabout. This project is in the north section of Sunnyside neighborhood, and it's where 3 roads come together. Currently, there is a signalized intersection, and this intersection is kind of offset a little bit. But what happened here is we had several crashes, a lot of safety issues that had come up, and the state of Arizona had, through their transportation, offered to supply the HSIP funds, which is Highway Safety Improvement Program funds, to help with doing something here to address some of the safety concerns. So the city partnered with them, and we created this roundabout. The city council has seen this project several times. We've gone before them. We've talked to them about what this roundabout would look like and how we can just make sure this is the right project moving forward. We included pedestrian crossings at each leg. There's also Z crossings, which allow the user to get to the middle, and then they physically have to turn towards oncoming traffic and then get to the next part to go continue their way across the intersection. So Z crossings. There's also going to be pedestrian beacons, again, push button flashing, which gives vehicles the notice that there's somebody there who wants to cross. We are going to coordinate with the library. We are going to coordinate with FUSD MEMS. We're going to coordinate with Pine Forest Charter School in these areas. And we have talked with them. We've partnered with them. We've talked about how we can educate some of the students to cross at a roundabout. And so we're working through that process. Total project cost is just under $7 million. About $2 million is HSIP, and then the rest will be city funds through Proposition 419. One of the big things here is we've started construction. So ADOT is going to administer the project. So they're in charge. The city will provide support because it's within our city limits. They started construction about mid-March, and they'll continue on through the summer and then be complete this fall. We do have a closure of the intersection beginning on or after May 23rd, so that will coordinate with when FUSD goes into summer vacation. I would like to mention, we'll get to this slide a little bit later, but with the Spruce Wash suite of projects program that we're working on as well, we have Linda Vista closed to help with that work for that project in that area. So that closure at Linda Vista by Spruce Wash will be lifted or opened at the same time this intersection will be closed. So we are not going to keep both closed at the same time. One, Linda Vista will open, and then this intersection will close for construction. And ADOT has assured us that they will work with their contractor to make sure the work is completed by the time school is ready for session. I believe that is August 4th.
Thank you. Supervisor Vasquez?
Yes, thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. So my question was about, I have some concerns about the pedestrians crossing, especially children, and how does that impact traffic flow when, if you've ever gone to that intersection, it backs up pretty far back, right at school, beginning of school or at pickup at the end of the day. And how are vehicles going to be able to get through there and still have children crossing that roundabout? Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. So this project has gone through that aspect when we did the initial traffic analysis. They kind of see how the traffic patterns are going to move based on the volume of vehicles in this area. With the AM and PM peak times, which coordinate with school release and school in session, they were able to determine as you enter the roundabout, there'll be 2 lanes, and then it'll split where you could share the lanes and then come out of the roundabout. So a lot of the roads there will be able to handle the volume. As kids cross, I know the schools had talked about having a crossing guard or having somebody positioned there to maybe allow the students to collect and then have enough to move across safely. And as part of our project coordination, we've been partnering with a public information firm. And we have talked with the school, we have talked with the library, we are planning to initiate some type of educational program to help with students on how they can cross the roundabout safely. And again, it's just looking at possibly having staff or positions at these locations to help with the crossing for the students.
And will there be lights for the children to press to blinking lights to show that they're pedestrians in the walkway?
Yes, that is correct. So once they get to whatever leg of the intersection, they can push the button, it'll flash, they'll be able to cross safely to the median. And again, as part of that Z crossing, they'll be able to see, again, push another button to continue the rest of the way.
And then one final question. A concern, I was at a community meeting last week, and one of the concerns was people trying to go through side streets, both because of the construction, but also once the roundabouts there in the Sunnyside, and in particular in the Sunnyside in the upper Greenlaw areas. Does the city have a plan to, with signage or other ways, to prevent that so that we don't get high-speed cars going through the neighborhoods?
Yes, Supervisor, thank you for the question. We are, again, ADOT's going to be administering the project, so they've created a traffic control plan that was part of their plan set for the contractor to bid on. And it showed areas of detour routes around the intersection. They did not show surface streets. So these routes will be signed. Linda Vista going to the north, West Street coming down, getting to Route 66. So those will be the signed detour routes. Now, again, drivers basically will try to find wherever they can go, and we will definitely try to deter, cut through traffic through the neighborhoods, but I can't guarantee that will not happen.
No, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Councilmember Aslan.
Thank you. Trevor, just a quick, I'm just curious about the status of the old growth tree that's on the charter school property. Is there any change in fortune for that thing?
Yeah, Councilmember, thank you for the question. So there's 2 trees for the Pine Forest Charter School. There was one roughly in this area which will be saved, that will be okay. The one that's closer to the improvements, which is roughly 4 feet off of the back of sidewalk, because they have to excavate and get into the roots, that tree cannot be saved. And we have talked with Pine Forest Charter School, and they're okay with that. We did offer to process the tree, and I believe they will get some of the kindling or the wood from that pine tree. All right.
Any other questions on this? Okay, thank you.
All right, I'll keep going, thank you. All right, so I am going to turn it over to Christine Cameron, who is our senior project manager. She has the lion's share of all these bigger projects, and she's going to continue on here for a few slides, and then I'll finish up Go ahead, Christine. Christine, you're on mute. Still can't hear you. We'll give her a few minutes to rejoin and see if she can get that corrected.
Christine, if you could try again, I think we had our mics on our side muted for Teams.
Okay, I called in with my phone, so can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So, yes, good afternoon. I'm Christine Cameron, Senior Project Manager with City of Flagstaff, and thanks for giving me a little bit of time to share my projects with you. So the Lone Tree Overpass and corridor improvements, this is a major transportation project that's been in our regional plan for several decades now. This will provide another north-south arterial corridor through the center of town, and more importantly, a grade-separated rail crossing over the BNSF corridor. And so the scope does include the overpass over the Rio de Flag and BNSF, and also makes a new connection with Route 66. There will be 3 protected intersections at Butler, Franklin, and Sawmill. And these are designed in accordance with our active transportation master plan, which provides safety and mobility for bike and pedestrian use. And Lone Tree will also be widened from 2 to 4 lanes and extended to, up to Route 66. So the estimate of the project is currently at $161 million for both. It is funded by Proposition 420 for the overpass portion and Proposition 419 for the corridor. With construction coming in at 125 million, design around 10. We've done a lot of coordination with ADOT, BNSF, Army Corps of Engineers through the design process. Property is around 20, and the rest in permits and admin fees. There is the opportunity for potential state RTAC funding at $18.3 million that we should hear about here in the next, at the fiscal year. And I wanted to thank Supervisor Vasquez on championing that effort for us. We really appreciate your support. The design is complete for this project, and we began construction on the corridor portion in late February. And so we're underway on everything that's happening on Butler Avenue and south on Lone Tree Road down to Sawmill and O'Leary Street area. We are wrapping up the BNSF agreements through the city and BNSF and the Army Corps, and hope to start on the overpass portion next season. I will pause there for any questions.
Questions? I'm not seeing any.
Okay. So Trevor, yeah, this is a graphic of the overpass we did in design. Going from left to right, we're just off of the intersection of Butler and Lone Tree. And then this is like the old Arizona Materials site that's in the foreground of the picture. There'll be a multi-use path underneath the bridge. And hopefully one day we will see a community area for the south side. This is in the south side active master plan. And then the large corridor, the green will be the future Rio de Flag realignment. And then the BNSF corridor. And then again, we'll be hooking up with the Route 66 intersection, the new intersection. Great. Slide. So the second project is the Downtown Mile Safety and Connectivity Project. This is a project that was developed to construct a good handful of our local projects under the rail corridor here through downtown. BNSF Railway has also been planning a third rail through the region. And so this over time has become a cooperative project in between the city and BNSF. To bring this into a single effort, it just made more sense to deliver it all together, even though it was quite a hefty lift so far. So on the exhibit that you have, the projects that are included in this, going from left to right, are the Florence to Walnut pedestrian underpass. This is in the La Plaza Vieja neighborhood, and this is a activity or an area of high trespassing activity. And so we want to provide that underpass. That's been in planning for a while for the neighborhood there. Then we will be reconstructing the Milton Road underpass on ADOT's state route. And this will facilitate keeping the rail active on a bridge structure while we move the whole structure to the north. We need to keep 2 rails active at all times. And so we're kind of building somewhat of a redundant area here. So we'll construct 2 tracks to the north and then take out the old bridge and then construct a little bit more of the bridge structure to accommodate that 3rd rail. So moving a little bit further to the east, we have the Rio de Flag pedestrian underpass. So this will be an underpass in between City Hall and the new Downtown Connection Center for Mountain Line. And this is also where our Rio de Flag flood control project will go underneath the railroad tracks. So moving a little bit further to the east, we'll also have highway rail grade crossings safety upgrades. And this is at the at-grade crossings of Beaver Street and San Francisco Street. So we'll have additional safety measures there, both for cars and for pedestrians. And then we also will have the Amtrak station platform improvements. So this will be a reconstructed north platform and a new south platform for the station. So the estimate for this project is $63.4 million currently. Designs right under 4, with construction right under 60. The city and BNSF partnered with an infra grant application in 2022, and we were successful out of that first round of the IIJA funding. Happy to receive that. The city is contributing 12.3 in matching funds, and BNSF will contribute around 11. And we also have received $3 million in ADOT SMART funds to offset some of these costs too. So lots of community partners in this project for sure. Design is at 60%, and we are approaching 90% here in a couple of months. Construction is planned to start next year in 2026 and run for several construction seasons. We also were notified right before the first of the year that we received additional funding out of a CRISI grant application, another BNSF city partnership, and received the cost to cover that $6.2 million in those platform reconstruction and new construction improvements.
We do have a question.
I will pause there for.
Sorry,
Yep.
Vice Chair Horstman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thanks for this. You know, obviously this downtown mile safety and connectivity project has been a long time in the making as well. And noting that and Lone Tree Overpass are going to be going on approximately the same time, I'm assuming that people are already in the works on how you're going to get people down the north-south access through Flagstaff and the detours, because it just it sounds like it's going to be a lot. So and obviously I'm sure there'll be some community outreach and community meetings, and but please keep us informed on this, and so that we can help do our part too to get the message out there on this.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. And again, this is one of the reasons why we have taken this presentation around the community, several different places to kind of prepare people. It's not going to be a lot of fun. You know, we have to be real about our messaging. We're going to do everything that we can to try to keep traffic moving, you know, through downtown, down Milton Road, also down Butler Avenue. But these are several large projects, and I've got another one here, the Rio, as a third, that are going to be impacting, transportation. And so yes, we are definitely working on that, and we'll keep the community informed.
Thank you. Any other questions on the downtown mile? I'm not seeing any.
Okay. So the next project is the Rio de Flag Flood Control Project, and I know that everyone at the dais is well familiar with this effort. This is a cooperative project in between the Army Corps and the City of Flagstaff. It channelizes and reduces the 100-year floodplain footprint through town. And so if you see in the exhibit, the part of the aerial that is visible through our central downtown area down through Southside into NAU, that is the 100-year floodplain footprint. And so that area will be greatly reduced with this channelization of the Rio, and that will be done through a series of open channels and box culverts. So the Army Corps is the lead on this project, and the city is the non-federal sponsor. We've been working with them since the late 1990s, early 2000s, on the feasibility and the design, the property acquisition. We have several portions of the project that have been constructed. One is out west, that Clay Avenue wash detention basin. We also have the Butler Tunnel, which is kind of at the east end of the project that's been completed. And we also have the Thorpe Bridge up north on the Upper Reach that's been completed. And so not that those were easy, but they're the easier portions of the project to construct. And now we really just need to attack the main stem reaches through town. The estimate is currently at $243 million. We did receive a substantial cost increase notification from the Army Corps earlier this year. So we are working to digest that information and look at additional funding, seeing how we're going to continue to deliver this project. It's a very critical project for the city of Flagstaff, and we are absolutely dedicated to delivering this for our community and bringing, those areas out of the floodplain and greatly enhancing life safety and economic development and redevelopment in these areas. So the cost share is 65% for the Army Corps and 35% for the City of Flagstaff. The design is 95% complete. Currently, we're wrapping that up now with the rest of the property acquisition. And we do hope to get under construction in 2026. With this cost increase, the Army Corps is looking at some alternate phasing so we can go ahead and get started with the funding that we have in the first phase that we had intended to move forward with, while we work on the additional phases and work on funding for those. So the Army Corps will be going to their headquarters in DC here in June. They call this a change control board, where they'll be presenting the alternatives, preferred alternatives to their leadership, and hopefully come back with some good news that we will be able to proceed with construction in 2026.
Thank
I will
you.
pause there. We do have another slide, Trevor, if we want to show that. This is just two renderings of the completed Rio design. And so the upper left shows the open channel portion, and this is along the lower reach. So kind of around the BNSF corridor north of Butler Avenue. That open channel that's there today will be reconfigured. And then there'll be a maintenance road alongside that, may become a future footpath. And then the bottom right is right at Elm and Benito. This is along the upper reach where we have the area that goes through the north downtown. That has a footpath, and so the footpath will be improved. And then this is also what we're calling a composite channel. And so the box that you see that's underneath the grade will convey the majority of the 100-year flood waters. And then we'll also have a surface feature, which is will carry regional or just the neighborhood flooding. And so we wanted to work with the community to keep, some kind of surface water feature there, riparian type of area that's available today. So I will pause for questions.
Thank you. Councilmember House has a comment.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Christine. Just a comment to, again, thank you, and for the sake of the supervisors with us today, offer just the continued praise for the work that you did with us in DC just recently on all of these projects, but particularly this one, with all of us knowing just how important this is for so many segments of our community. The work that you did to express that and reiterate that to the Army Corps and everyone else that we spoke to about this project was really impactful. I also just wanted to acknowledge these graphics in particular. I think these are really helpful things to be able to share out into the community of what's envisioned with particularly the proposed box culverts. I know there's been a lot of concern from some community members who really appreciate the flow of water and being able to see that, and the way that it's maintained here with some of that surface water maintained while the box culvert is very cleverly hidden there. I think that was a concern of some folks, that it was just going to be, that was going to be the visible thing, and it was going to be, in their mind, not a non-attractive community feature. So seeing images like this really helps to emphasize the thoughtfulness that's gone into this project, and that concern for the public space that this represents, and the beautiful landscaping that's possible to see this project through. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Vice Chair Horstman.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor, and yes, thank you for that, and Councilmember House. And this is another one that's been a long time in the making. Most of us who have lived here for a long time, we've been talking about this for decades, and I'm so appreciative of the thoughtfulness that's gone into this. I know there have been lots of neighborhood discussions on this, and I think the city needs to be really commended for the great job you've done for community outreach on this and meeting with people. And I've been able to attend some of those and really appreciate all that you are offering, and the thought that's really gone into it. I mean, nothing's perfect, but this has really added, I think, to their concerns, been able to address many of their concerns, and certainly will hopefully alleviate a lot of mitigate, I need to say, mitigate some of the flooding. So thank you, great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I just wanted to add, I have seen this presentation, I think this is my third or fourth time, and I cannot get enough of it. I just love seeing these projects. I love seeing that we're moving on them, and what a difference it will all make for our city. So thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Vice Mayor wants to see more presentations.
I do like them.
All right. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
For the end of our presentation, I will speak a little bit about the Spruce Wash suite of projects. It's a program. A year ago, we had a project manager that left the city of Flagstaff. And so I was able to help out with the team for the past year. We do have the design lead in attendance tonight, as well as the Public Works Director. They've been instrumental in this project when it first started. So I will give a little bit of the update. If there's something that I'm not able to answer that was before my time, I'll definitely ask them to come up and share with you what they know. But this is the Spruce Wash, again, suite of projects. It's a program. We had 10 projects that made up this program. Initially, it was 7, but it's grown a little bit. So now we have 10. So this was all part of Proposition 441. So that was November of 2022. So this program was going to mitigate the flooding impacts due to the museum fire that occurred in 2019. So this project was going to move forward. We had the vote on November of 2022. I believe it passed with 76% approval. And so the next day, this team got together and began designing, planning how this program was going to work. So essentially, it takes the corridor from the very north side of Paradise Road, and then working through the center, and then through Sunnyside as well, and kind of ending there near Killip School, elementary school. So this program, again, is 10 projects in total. And there's also beautification components of this project, of all these projects. So they'll have some type of items to help add value to what we're doing, not just the gray concrete stormwater conveyance projects. We'll have a little bit of ideas and beautification and some nice things that will come along with this project. Our budget at the time when Proposition 441 was approved was $26 million. Currently, we're at $39 million. So we are taking funds from various locations within the city. We're using Proposition 419. We're using Road Repair and Street Safety Initiative funds, which is Proposition 406. We have drinking water, wastewater, stormwater, that's all coming from Water Services. So there's plenty of funds that we are trying to gather to the table to make sure this project is completed. Our schedule is December. We started with the design, thereabouts, and then we are moving through this summer. We still have a few items that are still projects that we're still designing on. We started construction in summer of 2023. And we are going to hopefully be complete maybe as early as a year from now, next year. I think the promise made was 2027, and so we're just going to keep moving forward and just get as many of these projects, everything completed as soon as possible. Again, Linda Vista is currently closed. When I talked about Lockett 4th, Cedar Roundabout, so that intersection there will be closed on or after May 23rd. And then Linda Vista for this project, which is currently right where 3 is, where the highlighter is currently, that will be reopened before May 23rd. So again, just that coordination going on there. As far as projects, so everything north of Cedar Avenue, so this is Cedar Avenue, so everything to the north is currently under construction, if not completed. Everything south of Cedar Avenue is still in the design process, but we are moving forward. We have 5 guaranteed maximum prices, components that make up the north part. So those are currently under construction and moving forward. We have a GMP number 6 that will come before the City Council May 6th, and that will be for these 4 projects to the south. And that will encompass everything part of the program. So we're moving forward with that. I would like to highlight and note that Project 10 is the Parkway Basins, which was phase 1 and 2. So we did include that with this program. And phase 1 and 2 are complete, and we are working with the county to go ahead and make sure that is accepted and moving it forward. So I did want to highlight that. It was an IGA between the city and the council to get that project underway. It was funding through the, I know the acronym, but I just don't know. NRCS. I heard it from back there. Awesome. But yes, so the funding was from NRCS, completed, but basically this is our Spruce Wash suite of projects. And again, we're moving it forward. It's going to mitigate all the flood damage that occurred, that will occur, get that all under control. So just wanted to end with that.
Thank you. Councilmember Garcia?
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Excellent presentation, Trevor. And thank you for keeping us up to speed on these type of things. I had a quick question. I followed along with this process prior to being on council for the most part, and have most of the dots connected in my mind. But when you mentioned that it kind of ends at that retention basin at Kellup, it drew up another question that I had. And that is, when the flow, the spruce wash flow comes down, will the retention basin at the, not the Y, what are we calling that one?
The wedge.
At the wedge, will that one be opened up prior to the filling up of Kellup detention basin? Or how will that work? And then will there be any flow past that, or do you think we solved it with these retention basins?
Thank you, council member. So the first question is the wedge. I understood this is the wedge, number 2. So that's a detention basin that will accept flow coming down Spruce Wash that might be a little more than what the crossing can handle. So there will be a pipe that will take it from the crossing underneath Linda Vista Drive down to the wedge. And then when the wedge fills up, it will come out of the detention basin and get into Cedar Avenue, into the main public stormwater system, and then just continue on like it normally does. So, and then as part of that measure or that runoff, it will continue down Grandview Drive. So Grandview Drive, before we started, had a normal crown, so a 2% in either direction from center line. What the designers did and what the team agreed to was do an inverted crown. So now it's the opposite way, which will hold some flow. If we were to try to necessitate or mitigate the entire flow, we'd have to do more work. We would have to do more design type work, but everything works together in this fashion. We definitely need all the components completed for it to work as it was designed. So we do have some temporary measures at the crossing, which will kind of mitigate some of the flow, will kind of limit the flow that goes into the wedge, and then some of it will pass through in the channel, some of it will actually be allowed to go down Grandview. So but everything needs to be in place. Everything 1 through 10 needs to be completed in order for it to work as one system. I believe that was the first question. The second question is south of Kellup School. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
Okay. So that would be the second part of Spruce Wash. We were only looking primarily at this section here north of Kellup School. So right now, everything gets into the drainage system, which comes down First Avenue and then crosses right there where Speedway is. And then it continues on underneath the railroad tracks and then goes further south. So that part will be essentially maybe the second phase of what we need to do there. We haven't looked into it yet. I don't know the funding sources, the mechanisms, or how we would move that forward, but that is the next part we would be looking at.
Thank you for that clarification. It seems all the work that you guys have done so far and putting in those detention basins, I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to help mitigate lots of that flooding. And the south side of that project will come up when it's necessary and when we can do that. But with what we have worked on now, I'm very confident that it'll help quite a bit with what we have going on. Thank you guys for all your hard work.
Thank you. I will relay that to the team. I did want to mention before we end on this slide here is we have a construction manager at risk. They are Eagle Mountain Construction. They are a local firm, and they're doing an outstanding job with this program, working on different components, as well as working on a few other projects within the city. So they are doing an outstanding job.
Thank you, Vice Chair Horstman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you very much. And this is I just want to talk a little bit about the Spruce Wash. drainage improvement, because this is another example of city and county working closely together to help to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our residents, many who literally live across the street from the city into the county and vice versa. And, you know, certainly phase 2 of that and the Parkway basins was constructed by the county with much input and collaboration there with the city to help with the sediment and some of the upstream sediment, et cetera, so that the job that the city is doing would be effective. And so we really, again, it's so great to have these meetings. It's so great to be able to talk about the projects and programs, how we can help each other and how we have helped each other. And this was certainly a great success, and thank you so much. And for everybody here at the city and the county that was involved with it, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Real quick, these are some pictures from current construction. We have the wedge. So this is the excavation of the detention basin. And there's the excavator on top of the big pile of dirt. All great digging, no rock encountered. So we're doing well there. Here we have the spruce wash channel. And what we are doing there is armoring it with these flexible blocks that will allow prevention of erosion. And then we have the very north side of the Linda Vista crossing showing how this structure will work. So we do have the main conveyance going through the channel. And then here is the side channel, which will actually get to the wedge. So when the flows go in there, they can get separated.
Supervisor Vasquez.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. So I just wanted to first off commend the team on this work. My parents live right next to there, so we drive by the construction all the time, and it's amazing how fast they've been going. And for the community, I just want to kind of put it out there that, you know, a lot of this work came from the flooding of 2021, and we're seeing the results of all that hard work and partnerships to do these upgrades. And for some areas in the community, it might feel overbuilt, but I just want to say it's only overbuilt until you need it at that level, right? That's something that we learned through the pipeline fires and whatnot in our flood mitigation is, you know, it's really a crapshoot where the monsoons land. And while some of the construction might seem a little overbuilt, we needed to build it to that capacity to get the funding we needed to be able to make those happen. And so I just wanted to make sure that the community understands that, because it was a hard work from everybody involved, from the city and the county, to make these projects happen. And it's really cool to see them come to fruition. Thank you.
Great comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Thank you for the presentation. We are down to item 7, Trail North of Elks Lodge update. Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Fowler?
Thank you. I think I raised my hand late, but I just want to thank you for, wow, all I can say is wow. That's a lot of projects and a lot of, I'm going to have to figure out where I'm going before I enter the city. So thank you for all the heads up. But, you know, this on a bigger picture, I'm on the National Counties Association intergovernmental reform, the disaster task force for National Counties Association. At that level, we're talking about FEMA, these huge you know, disasters that happen, and the fire, flood after, but we're not talking at the ground level like this, how the partnerships come together and how neighborhoods and communities are improved as a result of that, and how these fundings like NRCS and these smaller fundings that are available out there, federal dollars, are really needed for these projects. And just the innovative ways also a community like the city of Flagstaff can do propositions and be able to get the job done to get some projects done within the city, as well as create better systems for the community, so that we don't have the same flooding and other issues to come through again. So I just really appreciate just this project from the big picture here with the forest restoration. We've been talking about flood in the Timberline and the Schultz Fire area for many years. I'm really happy that we're in that transition phase to talking about the forest restoration. And then with projects within the city. Wow, you guys are really busy. So take time out for a little bit for yourselves. So anyway, really appreciate the updates. Thank you. And then, you know, when you're talking about community education, think about people that are driving in, the commuters and the communities that come in to do their shopping and other businesses here in the city. So that's something I think I just want to add on. I think Supervisor Horstman touched on it a little bit, but I think that's just something that I want to add. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. And we are on to Elks Lodge Trail.
Vice Mayor, Madam Chair, members of the board, council members, I'm Cynthia Nemeth. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director for Coconino County.
And I'm Martin Entz. I'm a Senior Transportation Planner for the City of Flagstaff.
And we're delighted to be here this evening to talk about the Elks Lodge Trail project. We wanted to give you a little bit of background, fill you in on some of the latest information, and then very much talk about an IGA that the city and the county would like to enter into to prepare ourselves for hopefully what will be a successful outcome with regards to this trail. The project in general has to do with formalizing what is today a social trail that you can see on your map. Starts basically around the area of the Elks Lodge and goes north or south, depending on which way you're traveling, but it would end in the Schultz Pass trailhead area. The concept is to acquire easement or by some other mechanism, the authority of the property owners, because the entire alignment of the trail is privately owned. And so it will require the cooperation of property owners in order to adopt the trail, formally construct it where it needs to be constructed, realigned wherever it needs to be realigned. This social trail, as we'll call it for now, has been in use by the community from what we can tell, 25, 30 years or so, but it's been in use for a very long time because it's a popular access from town to the Schultz Y trailhead area, and also for people in that neighborhood to access town. And we know that some folks use it quite frequently, not only for recreation, but as a commuter trail as well. It's about 2 miles in length, and as I mentioned, it connects the certain neighborhoods in the area of the hospital to additional recreational trails in the Mount Eldon area.
Like a lot of trails in our area, this one serves multiple functions, but it's kind of unique in that its primary function is to provide access from neighborhoods in the city out to the system of Forest Service trails out to the north of town. In other words, this trail is really not a destination in and of itself. People don't typically use it just to be on the Elks Lodge Trail, but they do use it to get to other trails, and that's its primary access function. Of course, when somebody's on the trail, they're experiencing it as a single-track experience, and that's a recreation function. Transportation comes in when people are able to go from their house to access the recreational trails as a replacement for driving out to a trailhead. We count that part of their journey as a transportation function. Coming in the other direction, people use it for commuting. So if you live in that neighborhood or along that corridor, there are at least a couple of residents who use it to come into town for school or work or shopping or whatever they do. And finally, this trail serves a neighborhood function, so anybody who lives in that area can jump on the trail after work or before work or on a weekend for a quick walk or a jog or a bike ride or a dog walk. In many respects, this trail project is an opportunity that's provided by the Schweitzer Canyon Transmission Waterline Project. The trail project is secondary to the waterline in terms of planning and acquisition. In other words, we're kind of following the lead of the waterline. We react to it and make adjustments, not the other way around. Both of these projects kind of follow the same alignment. They have the same footprint. That's why they're really connected. For the future trail, we plan on following the existing alignment to a great degree. There, of course, will be some modifications. And if you look at the map that we handed out, the side with the orange dashed line and the blue dots is a general idea of where the alignment is now and what we kind of plan to do with it. And please feel free to read through that document, look at the notes, but consider it to be a work in progress. We are still working on the alignment. We, the city, has not done final plans for phase 5 of the transmission water line. So part of our trail planning is waiting for that to occur and then reacting to it with the trail. We have also not talked to all the property owners in the area. Some of them may have very specific ideas about where they want the trail to be aligned or where it can go. And we, of course, can be flexible for some of those considerations. And so every couple of months or as things change, we update that map with new notes and consider it to be a work in progress. For the most part, the trail will consist of 3 different types of facilities along its length. The first one being existing roads. Notably, Chickadee and Hutso are 2 gravel roads that provide kind of local street access. They're kind of like half driveways, half streets. The trail uses it now. We see no reason not to continue to use it into the future. They're fairly low volume, low speed, so we don't anticipate much in the way of conflicts with motor vehicles on those streets or roads. The second type is a maintenance access road that would be constructed by the city as part of the Waterline project. And if you look at the engineering standards, and I encourage you all to read through the engineering standards, just kidding, you can leave that to us. A maintenance access road for utilities and a foots trail follow the same standards. So when they're built, a maintenance access road looks just like a foots trail and can function the same way too. So to the extent that the city will build maintenance access for the water line, we can use that for the trail as well. I should say that with phase 4, the part of the water line that's been built, I don't believe that the city built any access roads as part of that. We can get access to the water line through existing driveways or existing streets. That may also be the case with phase 5, that there may be no parts of the water line that need additional maintenance access roads. So we include it here for our planning, but it may not actually be part of the trail in the future. And then, of course, the final component are single-track trails. There are a number of them existing now. We've gone through them generally. Some of them are built better than others. Some are in the right place, some may not be in the right place, so a lot of them will be subject to realignment or reconstruction to be either in a better location or to be more sustainable.
All right, so talking about the properties and the property rights, the easements, the mechanisms, and how we connect the dots, if you will. We've had a lot of discussions with the HOAs. There's actually 2 primary HOAs in this area, one of them being the Wildcat, the other the Lockett Ranches. We've had 2 meetings with each of those groups. We have had individual conversations with some of the property owners, and there are 28 different parcels, so those are, in many cases, close to like 25 different conversations. We've also sent out letters to each of the property owners. That was in 2024, just to alert them of the idea, the intention that we would like to fulfill of this trail. And some of our next steps is to continue to have conversations with property owners that we have not yet had those one-on-one conversations to either understand their support of, answer their questions, if there are concerns, to kind of talk through those and see how and if there is an opportunity to work through the concerns that they may have. So a little bit more work to do on that. Recognizing that the Museum of Northern Arizona has a very large property at the northern end of this trail, we engaged in conversations with them early on. They're sitting on about 90 acres that are divided into 3 lots, each at about 12 acres. And part of that property is in conservation, and that conservation easement, that deed had been written with recreation, some very passive recreation in mind. And we've met with them on site. We've talked about the existing alignment, which they're not happy with, so we are working with them on, again, like we would do with other property owners, talk through their concerns and realign the trail where it makes sense and is best for everybody involved. So speaking about why would we want to take a social trail and create it, make it a public trail, we feel, that this trail is already very, very highly used. We think it's going to be a community asset. And right now, as the trail is, there are no permanent rights. Anyone can use it. People are currently walking on or through private property, which a private property owner could choose to close the trail, they could choose to block it, or they could choose to remove it so it would lose its continuity. But what we have already experienced and seen is the public finds ways around it. So what we feel is that a permanent access is better recreation management, and to get to the point of it allows, currently it's not maintained. There is no recreational management of that trail. So it would allow the city and the county to manage how the trail is used, to sign it, to lay out the expectations, the rules for the use of it. And that is recreation management. Now, some might interpret management like there will be a trail guard out there letting people know what the rules are. Generally, that's not what happens on any trail. And what we find as subject matter experts is that 99.9% of the time, people follow the rules on trails. They want to do the right thing. And so that's the difference between what happens on a social trail or can happen on a social trail versus one that is actually managed for recreation.
The existing trail that's out there now was created by users over a number of years, a long time ago. It's essentially unplanned, and it was, as a result, it was really not built or designed in an intentional way. Often trails that come about in that manner are unsustainable. They tend to be prone to erosion. Erosion leads to trail braiding, which is the phenomenon where you see where there should be one trail, people use 6 trails because the area gets wet or is muddy for times of the year. Unplanned trails also can go through sensitive cultural areas, often unknowingly, but have an impact nonetheless. They can have wildlife impacts that, again, are unintentional and unplanned for. If we take this trail on as a formal trail, we can be very intentional about how we plan for it and how we build it. Single track trails, when built correctly, and I would say the county does a very good job at building single track trails, and when they're done correctly, they're very sustainable and low maintenance. We can also control impacts on private properties. I mentioned earlier that we can align it in areas that have less of an impact on somebody's house or on somebody's property. We can make sure that we stay out of cultural areas or avoid wildlife impacts. Also, when the trail is made formal, it becomes easier for everyone to control access. In other words, when a formal trail is built through an area, that becomes where the access is located, not kind of here, there, and everywhere, as sometimes happens with user-built or social trails. We've been working on this for a little while, and the trail itself has been acknowledged in a number of city and regional planning documents. Specifically, this is referred to as a single-track access trail in the Active Transportation Master Plan and the Foots Master Plan. Single-track access is kind of what I described before, a trail that people use to get from the Foots Trail system or their neighborhoods in the city out to surrounding recreational single-track trails. It's acknowledged in Ordinance 2022-26 of the Flagstaff City Council that authorizes us to purchase easements and other property rights for trail and neighborhood open space using an old bond that the city approved. The trail is indirectly linked to planning for the Schultz-Wye Trailhead and its acquisition, in that this trail essentially connects to the Schultz-Wye Trailhead, so the two are along the same alignment. Also, to the extent that people will use this trail to access the Forest Service, it reduces the demand for parking at the trailhead. Finally, it's also indirectly linked to the Mount Eldon Dry Lakes recreation planning that the Forest Service did a couple of years ago. We included here in the image on the right some of the trails that have been built literally in the last couple of years in the land on the Forest Service to the north of where the Elks Lodge comes out. And you can see the Elks Lodge here is again that orange dash line. So those are all the trails that people are getting access to via the Elks Lodge Trail.
In 2019, we embarked on a county-wide Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And one of the things that we heard consistently across community, past community, over community, is people want trails. They want connectivity. Part of that master plan was actually surveying individual communities surveying and meeting with them in person. And so for the Flagstaff area, one of the highest priorities that they identified in our county Parks and Recreation Master Plan, one of the highest priority over the next 5 to 10 years by 57% of the respondents was trails. Trails and greenways was identified as the highest priority. Hiking and walking was the top household activity that people participated throughout the county, with 84% of those households identifying hiking and walking as their preferred activity, and then 47% identified biking as the top activity in their household. And as I said, trail connectivity is a constant a need that we hear about. We've heard about it from the area plans that the county has conducted, for example, in the Donny Park Timberline area. That's, especially those outlying areas. Belmont also was one that identified connectivity into, for example, Flagstaff as a priority. And we hear it throughout the county, and not any different than what we heard here in Flagstaff.
So this is not the first time the city and the county have cooperated on trail projects. I've listed a couple of examples here that have happened. These are chronological, beginning in probably the early 2000s. At the time, the city and the county jointly purchased an easement through what was at that time State Land Department land for the Arizona Trail. Subsequently, the county built that trail and managed it, maintained it as a trail until the city purchased Picture Canyon from State Land Department. Similarly, in the second case, the city and the county cooperated to purchase an easement across state land for the Flagstaff Loop Trail. This is kind of right on Observatory Mesa behind where you are. After it was purchased, again, the county built and maintained the trail until the city purchased that land from the State Land Department as the Observatory Mesa natural area. The most recent example was a foots trail, the Sheep Crossing foots, that the city built to provide access to Fort Tuthill County Park from a handful of city neighborhoods. The alignment was planned across Fort Tuthill in conjunction with the county. When the trail was complete, we entered an IGA with the county to hand them management and maintenance responsibilities essentially for that part of the Sheep Crossing foots that was within Fort Tuthill. The city retained the remainder of it going east under the interstate back to Ponderosa Trails. We mentioned we are working on a draft intergovernmental agreement. Think of an IGA as just a formalization of how the city and the county share our staff resources, funding that's available to us, and our expertise as well. And just to highlight that last point, I think the county has some very strong skills in trail planning and construction. I think the city brings a lot of expertise to the table as well. And when we coordinate on projects like this, we get to take advantage of what the other brings. The bullet points on this slide are kind of a summary of what we have so far in the draft IGA. Both the city and the county will share responsibility for acquisition. We can jointly hold easements that we acquire together. I will say, because a lot of the properties are in the county, both staff and board member Horseman have taken the lead in talking with a lot of the residents. That's a great benefit, because I think that there's an instant rapport between county residents and county officials that we at the city may not enjoy. Second bullet point, the city has funds for acquisition. This is what I referenced earlier in Ordinance 2022-26. We can acquire easements and property rights as well as neighborhood open space for foots through that bond. The county has the wherewithal in-house in terms of both equipment and staff to construct a lot of these trails. When we get the easements done and we're ready to build the trail, they're actually fairly short segments that the county can take on. The city has money in the budget under the category of single track access in our foots budget if money should be needed for one reason and another. And finally, and this is an important point, but when the trail was done and formal, the county will take it over for maintenance and long-term management of it. Again, these are ideas in the draft IGA. This needs to be finalized. Both of the bodies here tonight will see it at a subsequent meeting, one of your own meetings, either the county board or the city council. So stay tuned for that. It'll be before you before too long. And with that, we appreciate your kind attention. We're more than happy to listen to your discussion or answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Councilmember Spence?
Yes, the IGA that you just referred to, does that apply just to this 2-mile trail, or is that a much broader IGA that deals with other trails around the city and the county?
Council member, this IGA will be just for the Elks Lodge Trail. We can certainly look to see if there are future opportunities. I think these come along every once in a while and are kind of one-offs, so it may be, we may be looking at IGAs for each one of them as we move forward. But it's a sound thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Aslan?
Thank you. So, Martin, you know me. If I wasn't familiar with the Arizona Trail, I would ask you about that. But I am, and I know that the Arizona Trail passes significantly to the west of this location. But they are sort of nearby, and I'm wondering if there's anything I don't know in terms of this trail's relationship with the Arizona Trail, with the Arizona Trail Association and Matt, who is their director, in terms of access and shared usage, alternate path. What's the chatter out there about that?
Council member, it's a very good question. The Arizona Trail actually goes through Buffalo Park a little bit to the east of here, and if this were a little bit wider, you'd be able to see where the Arizona Trail is on that map. And we've thought about that, and I think the two trails really serve different functions and essentially different neighborhoods in the city. So in other words, somebody who's likely to use this trail because of where they live and where they're going to get access in the forest would really not find the Arizona Trail to be a good alternative for that. And in the same way, if somebody is up at Buffalo Park or a through hiker on the Arizona Trail, this would not really be a good substitute for the function that part of the Arizona Trail serves. So access to the forest takes place at all kinds of different places. It's very localized depending on where people live and what trails they want to get access to. And really, we try to plan for multiple ways and serve as much of that demand as we can.
Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, Martin and team. It was really enlightening to see what we can do together when we put our minds together and our resources together and work as a unit. But my question, it's a pretty simple one. Since I'm not too familiar with all the details of this project yet, you mentioned Chickadee and Hutso, and I was wondering if those were public roads or if they were private, and how we were going to deal with that.
Go ahead, Martin.
Councilmember, those are private streets. How we deal with it in terms of acquisition is, I believe we need an easement from each property owner whose property the road or the trail for the property rights goes across. If there's an overall association, like an HOA, that has some interest in that private road, then we may need an easement from that HOA as well.
Thank you.
I would just add that those are the fine details that go into a project like this.
Vice Chair Horstman.
And Martin and Cynthia, thank you both for taking the lead on this project. I mean, it really has been a very heavily used social trail. Anyone who really lives in that area is aware of it, has used it, uses it for work, for travel, to access the forest trails, both hikers, bikers, you name it, dog walkers. It's amazing. And it has, as a result, caused problems with the neighborhood because it is a social trail. And when the water line project started, there were neighbors in the area that said, hey, this might be a perfect time to bring up getting a foots trail, a dedicated trail in this area using roughly the water line area. And so that's it kind of re-emerged as a possibility and as a joint project between the city and the county. And simultaneous with this going on, the Forest Service was also looking to expand their trail system with that Mount Eldon Dry Lakes forest planning, which this could also meet up with. I mean, it could really open up so much of the Forest Service trails to the city of Flagstaff and the residents who live there on the northern part of the city of Flagstaff. And we hope that the neighbors will see not only a social advantage and a recreation advantage, but it also will allow an opportunity to have some kind of enforcement, upkeep, maintenance, which is not occurring now, to stop motorcycle traffic going through there. And they do use that regularly, unfortunately. Dogs off leash, you name it, as well as signage and working to create parking, so people aren't parking in the neighborhoods. So, it certainly is a wonderful opportunity, at least we think, and we have had a lot of positive responses from many of the property owners. There are some, quite frankly, that are not so positive, and we're doing our very best to try to win them over with these wonderful arguments and with these wonderful opportunities for recreational use for our whole community. So we'll continue that path, and I just want to thank the great work that's been done by the county and the city staff to move this project along. And I know we still have some folks we need to reach out to and we'll continue to do that and keep them informed to the extent we can. And hopefully, there still is an opportunity, Martin, as you said, to do a little bit of jigging and jagging around it if we need to on the trail itself. That's a legal term, by the way. And work, work our way through to get this done. It would be a great opportunity for the community and certainly for this neighborhood. So thank you, and thank you for your hard work on this. It goes on, but you and the council, my members on the Board of Supervisors have probably heard me talk about it, but it's great to get everybody on board, and hopefully we can all work to get this done. So thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Okay, we are down to open call to the public, and I don't have any cards. So down to number 9, informational items, 2 from Board of Supervisors, City Council, and City and County Managers. I am going to start with Councilmember Spence.
I have nothing.
I don't have any updates either. Just thank you for hosting our meeting, and really good to collaborate always with the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for staying here, being here with us, each and every one of you, and all the presenters, and all the council members and the Board of Supervisors. Just as I stated before, it's all of us that it's going to take all of us to work together on something. So I was going to invite Cynthia and Martin, if they can start planning on the Coal Mine Canyon Trail. It's a small mini Grand Canyon, so I think Martin said he had all the money, right? I thought I heard that. Maybe I'm hearing things. But anyway, thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity.
Just, we appreciate the hospitality of the city, as always, and really appreciate an opportunity to work with City Council on our mutual concerns and interests and for our community. So thank you.
All right, thank you. I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you to all the county and city staff who were involved with the Mexican consulate as of 2 weeks ago. They had over 350 people get new documents, and the event was really smooth, and a lot of services, both city and county services, were there at the event. And so thank you, all of you that made that happen. It was really cool to see and to let our Spanish-speaking community know that services and resources are there available for the community. Thank you.
And before Councilmember Garcia goes, and this will make sense here in a second, I want to jump ahead and just thank everyone for being here tonight and for the partnership with the county. We cannot do this without you, and vice versa. So thank you for being a great partner and all of the information tonight. You're on, Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you so much. It was really a privilege to be in rare air today and to be able to breathe it in with all the council members as well as the Board of Supervisors here. For somebody who has kind of studied this for a long time, it feels really nice to be at the table. And thank you all for that. We have a tradition here at the City of Flagstaff when somebody of great importance has a birthday up. But this person tends to be the one who tonight or the responsibilities of singing happy birthday is usually given to that person who tonight is actually the recipient of the birthday. So if you all would help me sing happy birthday to Miss Kara House, we will start in 3, 2, 1.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kara House. Happy birthday to you.
We get better at this every time.
And we do have cake that we can cut when we're done if you want to stay and have a piece. We would love to have you. And I guess maybe a group photo. Okay. City Manager Clifton,
Nothing from me, thank you.
County Manager Bertelson.
Nothing from me. Thank you so much for
Okay.
the opportunity.
Thank you. And with that, meeting adjourned.